Ugh. Alright, chat. After yesterday's this hard grind fest, I'm not really high energy today, but this interesting director's take blog came out looking at the future of competitive Overwatch, and I heard there's some very, very good, but also things in it, so we'll see. Okay, let's take a look. These are by Aaron Keller, by the way. I always like when Aaron puts stuff out because it's very grounded. You know, he gets a lot of shit for not being like Aaron. It makes me sad because, sorry, not being like Jeff. Aaron gets shit because he's not like Jeff. But I think Aaron's great at communicating. He just doesn't. He doesn't have the same on-camera personality that Jeff had, but I think Aaron's a really good dude. Anyways, hello everyone. We've seen a lot of conversation about competitive in Overwatch lately, and I'd like to take most of this week's director's take to address it. But first, let's have a quick hero update. We've made several changes to Illari when she was enabled for ranked, but notably the healing for her pylon was reduced, and her ultimate projectile size was decreased while it no longer pierces barriers. Okay, this is I don't know why this sentence is a little bit confusing. They decreased it, and it also now no longer pierces barriers. That was like the change. Okay. The pylon nerfs effectively equalized the healing between her pylon and solo rifle. Pre-nerf, the healing pylon accounted for about 62% of her healing. I'm not surprised. And now that number is about 55%. Yep, that's about what I expected. Because her pylon was like, remember like back when she originally came out, I was like, honestly, I don't mind having a really strong new support. But the like AFK pylon just healing you constantly was a little bit much. So you know what? I think they did a really good job with that. This change also brings her more in line with other damage forward supports, whereas before she was outputting healing numbers close to Lifeweaver and Mercy. We're happy with those latest changes and the additional changes made to the Captive Sun. We'll continue to monitor her damage output and see if anything needs addressing next season. Additionally, we're looking at Roadhog's underperformance and targeting his rework for the mid-season 7 update. You know what? Maybe a bit of a hot take, but I think the Hog players have done their time, you know? Like, he ruined a lot of, like, he ruined like a year and a half of Overwatch 1 at the end. And then it dominated for a couple months at the start of Overwatch 2. But it's been long enough. I think the Hog players have suffered long enough. Give them their rework. It's deserved. Hog is terrible. Although, to be honest with you, the good Hog players still make him work, so it makes me question a little bit that, like, maybe Hog actually isn't that bad. Because I've played Hog a few times in, like, weird scenarios versus, like, Doomfist. You know, when you get that Doomfist just going crazy in your backline, Doomfist doesn't do a lot of damage. I just pick Hog and just stand there, and every time he goes for a block, I hook him out of it so he doesn't get 2 punches, he only gets 1. And then all of a sudden, the Doom couldn't do anything. So I actually don't even think Hog's, like, that bad. He's bad, don't get me wrong. He's bad. He's really bad. I'm not saying he's not bad. I'm just saying, like, for some reason, some of the Hog players are making him work, and I can't figure out why, and that's my theory. Anyways, cool to see Hog rework coming in Season 7. Season 7 is next season, and also a non-hero season, so that's cool. Over the past few weeks, we have been talking about competitive play. Conversations really started to trend following a video from SK. That's actually so funny. I did a react to that. I'd like to join in on the conversation. I agree with a lot of what has been said, and I want to share a glimpse into what the development team is thinking and the direction that we're likely to go with competitive in the future. The team has been working on changes to our competitive mode for some time, but moderate to major changes to the mode won't find their way into the game until sometime down the road. Oof. I won't be able to address every issue what people are discussing in this piece, but I would like to address some of the major ones. We'll share some details on specifics as we're getting closer to releasing the changes. Okay. Let's hear what he has to say at least. Some feedback we've heard about the current system is that you're not pleased with how much information about the match and the progress is hidden from you. Yes. We understand you want to know how the system works, especially regarding how your rating goes up, down, or even changes at all when you get a competitive update, along with trying to figure out how a fair match is at the start of a game, or how fair a match is at the start of a game. okay, I understand this one. I think it's much more, I want to know how many wins I need to go up or how many losses I can afford to go down. Not at the start of each game, to be honest, but interesting. Okay, let's continue. For instance, we've seen players go 5-2 and be demoted for their competitive update. Many of the reports investigated so far have occurred due to MMR decay. So, this is why Overwatch 1 made so much sense, because we had two things. We had SR, which was the number everyone saw, and that was your rank, right? You were ranked 3,257, and that would be Diamond. MMR was matchmaking rating in the background, and because there was something called decay, and if you were Diamond and above, if you didn't play the game, so after 7 days, you'd start to decay by 25 points per day. So if you went like 2 months without playing and you were GM something, let's say you were like 4,300, you would decay all the way back to Diamond. But if you were GM and decayed back to Diamond, you would still be GM. You would be playing in GM games. Your rank would just show Diamond, right? But when you'd win a game, you'd get like 150 points, right? Like the game knew like, okay, like you're not actually supposed to be there. MMR though in Overwatch 2 is so much more complex because you have like this weird system where you have to win 5 games before you get a new ranking update. You have no idea where you are at any times, so it's hard. For instance, if you typically pick DPS and go on a significant amount of time if you typically pick DPS and go a significant amount of the time playing other roles, then MMR decay could kick in between updates for lesser played roles. So this happened to me. I was GM1 on support. I didn't play any support at all last season, and my support decayed from GM1 to GM4, which was good because I was not a GM1 player. Let's put that out there. Unless Brig is mad, then I don't do it. I can put that character in my sleep. But other than that, though, so I decayed down because I didn't play for a whole season. But if I had played any games throughout that season, it would have stopped the decay, which I don't like. Sorry, I lost my spot. Okay. Since decay is tracked per role, this could pull your rating down far enough to cause the demotion. When players see this happen, they would justifiably assume that there was an issue with the system. Many of the changes that come with our competitive 2.0 update were based on values centered around pulling frustrating moments out of the experience, but came with the cost of obscuring other information. I hated this. I hate that they do this. And I understand why they do it. They try to keep the information hidden because they don't want like bad actors and people to like manipulate the system. Because like in Overwatch 1, right? The way the system worked when you went into decay was for every game you played of Overwatch, it counted as 2 days before your next decay. So every 7 days, you could only bank up 7 days before decay would begin, but every 7 days, as long as you played 3 games, you would bank up 7 days of decay. So you would have to play at least 3 to 4 games a week to keep yourself from decaying, and people could use that to keep themselves in GM. But it made them play the game, and so what happened was people would still fall over time, right? Like, even though they knew how the system worked, their actual skill sucked, so they couldn't keep up. So the Overwatch team probably took that idea and was like, well, people use that to their advantage. Let's not tell them how it works. But it's worse, because now people don't even understand why they go down, and that's bad. Going forward, we're shifting our values to provide more transparency to the mode. That's good. This doesn't necessarily mean that the older skill rating measurement is or isn't coming back. Okay. As we continue to iterate on other possibilities, we very much appreciate your continued feedback. We want you to have a better understanding of what your true rank is and why wins and losses cause it to move up or down based on the general skill level of players in the match. The transparency is... I will never forget, in Season 1/Season 2, I remember randomly one night, I turned on Summit stream because I like watching Summit stream at night. It's like my go-to nighttime streamer. And he's watching a video of me. He's watching my video explaining how ranked works. And it was just about at the end. He's off, he has his camera off because he's doing Summit things. And he just goes, yeah, I don't understand. And I was like, dude, I tried my best to explain how this shit works. And he did not understand because he hadn't played Overwatch 1 that much. And I was like, dude, I can't explain it to them. No one can explain it to them. So yeah, the transparency needs to happen. It's bad. Okay. Next. Additionally, we understand the ways that we track progress can cause losses to feel more frustrating. Currently, the system works to provide a rank update after every 5 wins or 15 losses. After each win, progress is shown on a screen during the end of round flow, but losses are not. When the game doesn't acknowledge the loss, it can feel as though the whole match was a waste of time. We're making changes so that the system will contribute your progress towards a rank update after each match, whether you win or lose, so that no match feels like a complete waste of time. I wonder if they're going to change this to like 6 games played no matter what, right? 6 games played no matter what, wins or losses. Because the part of this that really sucked is like you need 5 wins or 15 losses, and it's like, what happens if you get 11 losses and 4 wins? And you're like, oh my god, this is awful. You know you're going to rank down, you know? We're also talking about the top 100 leaderboard and how some of the unique issues for that experience. If you are in the top 500, you are among the most competitive players in the community, and we think there are additional needs and issues than the rest of the community. One example of a unique problem is the difficulty of climbing the top 100 leaderboard later in the season versus early in the season, when it's easier to place higher. They also have more issues with queue times, grouping with friends, and finding fair matches when the spectrum of skill in this group can be fairly substantial. These are true. These are true. We also believe that the top 100 experience is more full-featured experience than how other players interact with competitive. This is true. This is pretty true. Competing with and passing other players on the ladder makes the top 100 leaderboard exciting. It's not something that most players get to experience. That's true. Eventually, we'd love to find a way for players of other ranks to have an experience in climbing the ranks that feel more granular than just moving in and out of skill tiers. That is a long-term goal and something we were just thinking about right now. That's ambitious. We should probably fix the things we got now, though, first. Because I understand what they're going for. Just be careful. Overwatch 2 is evolving and growing. We'd like for it to be doing that in a way that is exciting for players in a direction they would like. Exciting for players in a direction that they would like. One of the best ways to accomplish this is have a healthy dialogue between players and developers. Some of these competitive changes will be made in the short term, like how we treat MMR decay, but other issues will be handled with broader changes coming early next year. Oh. Ultimately, we're aiming to make the system more transparent, add more frequent reporting, open up some of the restrictions for grouping in higher tiers, to look at introducing new competitive rewards. Let's keep the conversation going. Thanks for reading, and I'll see you in game. Hog rework, that's cool. I will say it's nice to have something like this because it's like, it's not like a "you're wrong, here's why" article. It's not the old Blizzard where they just ignore you and pretend you didn't exist. They're acknowledging the problems, but that doesn't make it feel any much less of like a nothing burger.
Flats,
you know,
chat less than 3.
So 35 months KO per chant. It's kind of like a nothing burger, you know. It like talks about it, but it doesn't really say what you're gonna do. It doesn't say what what changes are gonna be made, like how you're gonna make any changes, like, you know, timeline of next year. We're in September. This is September 8th. That's 4 months at the earliest. And you know, like, I feel like a lot of people are kind of like really sick of waiting at this point, you know, for a system that they expected to work on day 1 of the game. You know, like, one of the best systems of Overwatch 1 was ranked. Point blank. It just was. Like, yeah, people complained about ranked, but it was more because of the game design. Like, you lose games because of your teammates, but that didn't change. But, like, you always understood where you were, you always understood where you were going. And even things like the icons, like the new icons, no offense, are really bad. I thought the old icons were kind of iconic. The new ones, like, nobody gives a shit. You know what I mean? They kind of look dull. And I figured those were going to get redone by now. And so I don't want to be that guy. Like, I appreciate the response, like, oh, we hear you, but like, you don't see anything really happening. And you know what sucks for me is I truly actually enjoyed playing this season until I realized how bad tank was. But I still played because I actually thought the game was fun. Unfortunately, the tank experience was pretty bad, but I was actually having a good time. And sorry, I'm gonna skip that. I'm just gonna keep mutes alerts muted for a sec. But the problem is, though, is for me personally, I'm waiting 10, 15. I'll come back. I haven't wanted to play ranked because it takes 10 minutes to find a game for a 6-minute stomp. The matchmaking is never going to be perfect. The community is just blinded by that one. It will never become perfect. So we have like really long queue times, which makes it really hard to stream, which makes it really hard to play. You don't want to play more than a few games. The meta sometimes feels really frustrating. That's balance-wise. But then, like, you're also confused on, like, where you are, and it's like, you know, there's so much old rank inflation from previous seasons. Like, I think there's been so much damage that's already been done that it's like, we don't have time to sit here and just be like, oh, it'll be fixed eventually. Like, in my personal opinion, where the game sits right now is where Overwatch sat in 2020. Where Overwatch was in 2020 before they came out and said, hey, you're getting no more updates until Overwatch 2. Like, when we still had Echo on the horizon, you know, like between Echo and Sigma, there was only one character a season. Like, nobody really talks about us anymore unless it's super negative, which is bad, because at least when people talked about us when it was negative, people still talked about us. People don't talk about Overwatch anymore. The only time you see Overwatch talked about anywhere is just like random strays the game catches, which is worse, because it's like the worse than negativity is apathy. Like, people don't care, you know. In a competitive game, that's genuinely keeps it alive. And Apex, I think, is a good example, because Apex has fumbled really, really bad this last year and a half, but their competitive scene has kept them alive. Their rank system was really good. They fucked it up really, really bad, and they're working to try to fix it. But their competitive scene kept them alive the whole way through. We don't have that. So I don't know. I guess I'm ranting a little bit here, but I'm not really the fan of hearing, oh, maybe next year, you know? So they fixed it this season, Flats. I haven't played Apex this season personally, so I can't speak on it, but yeah, I mean, hey, Hog rework coming. Isn't there Sombra rework coming too? So at least there's some stuff to look forward to next season. That's cool. But overall, yeah, this isn't my favorite update, but it is what it is.